Welcome back to episode 15 of the 9 Degrees podcast, the number one non-educational, education-themed podcast in the world. We may have 9 degrees among us, but we still don't know much about anything. We'll keep you informed on the most interesting current events in the world, but make sure you use a fact checker because we definitely don't. As always, I'm your boy Jerome. We got Maddox, we got Jackson. Jared is skipping out again. That's 2 episodes in a row. Someone tell that boy to get his priorities straight. Remember, you can catch the audio version of this podcast on Apple, Spotify, anywhere else you can find podcasts. Video version on youtube.com/Jerome Vaz. Make sure you follow us on socials, comment on all the videos at 9 Degrees Pod on everything, and come join the classroom on Discord. The link is down below. Class is now in session. Boys, welcome to Homeroom, our weekly segment where we talk about gripes and general pleasantries. This week we got a very special episode. Maddox just got married.
Well,
I
got married here last time too.
Well,
I feel like this happened in the last episode too.
Yeah, deja vu. That's what happens when Diddy slips you a pill in your drink.
Too soon.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's honestly too late.
You're right. But Maddox, we all came down for your reception last weekend. It was an incredible time. I had a great time. We all looked amazing. Oh, we should drop the picture of the 4 of us right here. Bob. I thought the wedding was absolutely incredible. Food was great. Music choice, but that's not your fault. That's the DJ's fault. Specifically on the food, the salmon, shocker, because you guys did what? Chicken, salmon, beef? Like steak?
Yeah, steak.
The salmon specifically, incredible. Tell us your thoughts. Well, as bride and groom, always stressful. You're entertaining a lot of people. How was it?
So yeah, I wanted to talk about this before I gave you my thoughts. I wanted to ask your guys' opinion. So we eloped and had the ceremony separate from the reception. So we did the ceremony privately with our family in Banff, and then a couple weeks later we had the reception in Chattanooga with our friends and family. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the separation of that. Did you guys feel like you missed out on anything, or that it felt different than a normal wedding? I guess we got some feedback from maybe extended family members that they wish they had been there for the actual ceremony, but we didn't choose to do it that way. We wanted to celebrate with our friends and our family, but we weren't going to ask them to come all the way to Canada to do that. So that's why we chose to do it the way we did it. But I wanted to get your guys' feedback on how do you think that went?
Jackson, your thoughts first?
My thoughts on wedding ceremonies is, I don't know, they're all the same and they're all boring. And if I have to miss one, I don't really mind. So, I think you made the right decision. And in fact, it's actually something that I'm even considering doing for my own wedding. Actually, every time I go to a wedding, I always see what do I think they did well and what do I think they did not well, so that I know for my own wedding, what should I do or what should I not do? So, yeah, I don't mind that there was no ceremony.
I fully and absolutely agree. I feel like the wedding ceremony is something that's super intimate and is really nice for the couple, for your family. My sister got married last year, and it was a very emotional moment for me. I was bawling, crying, and it was beautiful, and I felt like a lot of emotional attachment. I necessarily didn't feel that with any of the other weddings I've been a part of. Actually, I'll take that back. Marcus's wedding I felt good about, but also I was performing the ceremony, so a little different. I think you saved everyone a lot of time. I understand your extended family, their family. I get their point. For friends, the absolute worst thing you could do is you show up to a wedding ceremony, right? Maybe they're Catholic, and now you're sitting through an hour-long mass. Come on. No one wants to do that. Not a single person wants to do that. So I think you guys did the absolute right thing. I will say the only thing that I felt like I, quote-unquote, missed out on, per se, is a lot of, I would say a lot of recent weddings that I've been to, in between the ceremony and the reception, there's this gap of time where the couple is off getting photos and whatnot, right? And during that time, people will often do a happy hour of some sorts where the guests can get a little bit liquored up before the bride and groom show up, I would say that that was the only thing that I was like, I wish there was a happy hour with some, some charcutes or something.
Yeah, well, technically we had a half hour. There was a half hour time when people could arrive before we came out.
Wait. Before I get angry about this, what time were you?
We were scheduled to come out at 6:30.
Okay. So it was there. I just wasn't aware, and so I wasn't getting drinks. That was the problem. That's my fault. That's on me.
So
That's
you
my
weren't
fault.
getting. You got there at 6, but you didn't get a drink until
we were just mingling and
Okay.
And chatting, and
The bar
and
was
stuff.
open, man. This is on you, buddy.
Yep, that one's on me. That's on me. I take it back.
Okay, so that's interesting to hear your guys' perspective. From my perspective, the reception, like while it was fun, the next day you wake up and the best way we could describe it is like a social hangover, and
Yeah.
It felt like a blur. There was just so much going on, so many people there. You're trying to talk to everyone. There's like a tight timeline you're trying to, stick to, and there's things going on, and your coordinator's calling you over and asking to make decisions on things. And so, yeah, the best way I can describe it is it felt like a blur. Like you wake up and you're like, was that a dream, or like, did that even happen? And to have thinking about combining like the ceremony, which you said is like an intimate, like emotional event. I would say I much preferred the way that we did it, because it didn't feel like that at the ceremony. It was a lot more, you could be a lot more focused on it because that was what you were doing, and there wasn't all these people around that you're, thinking about, like, is everything going right? Are they having fun? Like, am I making enough effort to talk to everybody?
Yep.
So yeah, that's my thoughts. I think it actually is like a really, really good way to do it. Obviously, depending on how you did it. I mean, we went to Banff. You don't have to travel, do a travel thing, but like, I think like logistically, like it actually is like a good way to structure it. And like you guys said, I personally, when I go to a wedding, I don't feel the need to like be there during the ceremony.
Yeah.
Unless, like you said, if it's a really close friend or family member. But yeah, that's like what we did with our immediate family, because it did feel like they should be there. And they like added value being there.
Right.
But, so yeah,
no, I'm with
that's
you.
my thoughts.
It's definitely hard being the bride and groom. I mean, I haven't been a bride or groom, but I'm sure it's really difficult. My sister's wedding last year, you guys were both there. You guys remember? Her and her husband didn't hit the dance floor a single time.
Really?
In the entire night. They did not get on the dance floor the entire time because they had, I want to say 200 people, which originally I didn't think that was like a crazy number, but I guess is. And so that was their time to like go and mingle around and go talk to everyone and blah, blah, blah. They didn't come out on the dance floor a single time. So from that extent, like the wedding reception is definitely like for the guests. We, of course, we would have much, we wanted to see you as much as we possibly could. But this is why I'm a strong proponent of we should throw a once a year annual party where we can just all get together with our 100 closest friends and just do it.
A friend reunion?
Yes.
Just
I
like
don't know why
That'd be good for the party planning industry.
Well, honestly,
really big boon to them.
Forget friends. I want my closest friends. I want my closest friends' parents. I want it to be like a wedding. So there's like some random people that you don't know, but it's just bodies in a space. I want wedding atmosphere, but where there's no bride and groom and I can just hang out with my friends. You know what I'm saying?
I actually kind of love this idea, mostly because it is special to have all these people that are in different facets of your life like come together. It feels like a mashup episode.
Yes.
Like you remember?
Yes.
Were you guys Power Rangers fans?
No, but I like Disney Channel and I like when they used to do the crossover episodes.
Okay,
yeah.
Similar to that, Power Rangers, they'd have the different like universes of Power Rangers come into, or like the older generations of Power Rangers come in and the new ones, and it's like, that's so sick. But yeah, like my nephew on my wife's side, who's been watching Jerome's YouTube videos, meeting Jerome and thinking he's a celebrity, and like
literally
just like so many little moments like that are really special.
Yeah.
That, that only is literally only going to happen one time.
Right.
Hopefully,
and I think we should make that. Don't say that. Don't say that. You just got married. But I feel like we should do that more often. And then if we need extra bodies, we can just like hire some extras or whatever, you know, like some actors. Anyway, I thought it was amazing. Jackson, you didn't really give your thoughts. Did you enjoy the reception? Did you have a good time? You actually, at one point in time, I think you told us that you just got a little overwhelmed and you left for went on a little walk for a little bit.
Yeah. So wedding receptions, that kind of atmosphere, not really my scene. I'm not a big party person. I like staying at home.
And you don't drink.
And I don't drink also. And I don't like loud music. So all that was like, I just like halfway through the reception, I just like, without telling anyone, I Irish goodbye'd and not permanently, but like I took a walk to the river and back.
Dude, I honestly, people were giving you crap about that. I think that's perfectly fine. Like, you needed like a little bit of time to settle down for a little bit, like calm down, relax yourself, refocus.
Yeah. We were trying to find you desperately for the 9 degrees
That's
photo
true.
opportunity.
That is, and
but
we were someone like, I had people calling me saying like, oh, come back, we're gonna take photos. And I got mixed messages. Some people were saying no rush, and then some people were saying hurry if you could, you know. So
that's the same thing.
Okay, whatever. But no, I mean, yeah. So I mean, my general thought is like, I'm not a big fan of interacting with like people I don't know. Like, I would say I probably said maybe 10 words to people I'd never met before. So, you know, and I mean, I got to see my friends, but also like we were hanging out before and after. So it's not like that's the only time I got to see you all. But
well, I will tell you,
if it was a means to an end. So for that, I can be appreciative of the wedding reception.
Okay.
Like, it brought us all to the same city, and we got to hang out.
Understood. Okay.
For
understood.
a couple days.
Understood. I will say, after we all went home, so we went to a bar afterward called Boneyard. It was goth night or something. This is not me being offensive. It was quite literally goth night, and people were purposefully dressed up for goth night. Anyway, we hung out there for a little while, and then we went home to the Airbnb. Maddox, you and Hannah went home to your apartment. When we got to the Airbnb, right, we had a genius idea to, continue drinking, having a good time. And Jared and our other friend Preston were like, we should go get some food. So they, in a not so well-lit part of Chattanooga, decided to go on a walk at 2 a.m. in search of food, right? Call us empty-handed. They apparently went to a gas station, the Mapco or something, which was like a mile walk away. They go to the Mapco. Mapco's closed. Even though it has a big sign that says 24/7, Mapco's closed. Then they see a pizza joint across the street. They call the guy and they say, hey, can we order a pizza? And he said, no, you have to place orders through the website. So they go online and website's broken. Can't order any food. So I call him back and they're like, hey, website's broken. Can we just place an order over the phone? He says no. And so then they hang up and they call us and they're like, there's no food. We're sorry. So I have the brilliant idea. I was like, hey, we're in Chattanooga. Last time we were in Chattanooga with Maddox, it was New Year's. What did we eat on New Year's? We have not told the full story of New Year's, nor will we ever tell the full story of New Year's. But we had crystals, and I was like, oh my God, we should order crystals. Let's run back Chattanooga. So I bought $130 worth of crystals for 5 boys, and we wasted most of them.
That's story of my life.
It is what it is, man. But
the crystals are so tempting. Late night drinking, and then they haunt you in the morning, sitting there, stinking up the room.
we put the remainder of them in the fridge, and the next morning, Jared went to go take him to the trash, and he brought the bag. Just happened to waft by my nose, right? And when I tell you, I almost on the spot threw up. It was bad, man. But speaking of, before I get into my gripe for the week, there was a situation that happened. Jackson, do you want to get into it? It
yes,
revolves around airports.
It revolves around airports.
Okay, never mind. You go ahead. You go ahead.
This was a fan complaint that I got. So I'm always talking to our viewers, trying to get feedback on what they liked and don't like about the show. And one viewer reached out to me in particular, and he said, hey, I really like your podcast, but I feel like you all in quotes curse too much. And I feel like
this is a personal attack.
upon some review that I've done, I found that there's one big offender.
This is a personal attack.
It's Jerome. Jerome's the offender. And actually, we were talking about this over the
Mr.
weekend.
Painter, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was my dad. He was the viewer.
Sorry.
Okay, but anyways. But yeah, so we were talking about this over the weekend, and so we had brought it up to Jerome and like, hey, we think you curse too much, and it's like, whatever. And then at this wedding reception, this aforementioned nephew of Maddox's, who's 9 years old, by the way, he says to Jerome, hey, do you want to go, I forget what it was, but do you want to go do something? And Jerome to him says, and I quote, hell yeah. And I'm like, I'm face palming. I'm just like,
Guys.
Jerome, but you literally just don't have a filter.
This is crazy that you would put this on me. First off, I don't think hell yeah is that bad. Is that bad?
It's not that bad, but I mean, it's
to
like
a 9-year-old? I feel like hell is still very PG. I feel like hell could be said in a rated G movie.
Or in a church, appropriately, actually.
Exactly.
But I think this just gets to my wider point that, like, I think that there's some people out there who they have a filter that they can turn on, like when they're recording a podcast or when they're in social situations around children. And there's other people who just don't have that, and they throw out. I have a
reverse argument against this. I don't know if anyone is familiar with David So. He's an Asian YouTuber that I've been following for a long time, and this is kind of his argument. If your children are out in public in a setting where people are drinking and blah 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 and whatever, I don't think you should come into that with the expectation that people are going to be accommodating of your children. Does that make sense? Like, you can't expect every single person in the room to watch their mouth just because a child is around. Once again, hell, not that bad. But my point being, like, if you're in your own home and you're inviting me into your home, sure, your house, your rules, you can tell me not to curse in front of your kids, and I can fully respect that. If we're out in public, in like an open area, don't just come up to me and tell me not to curse around your kid. Maybe don't bring your kid to a bar. How about that?
Well, okay. I get your point, and I think it's a valid point, but you were talking directly to the kid. You weren't. It wasn't like you were talking to your boys and the kid just happened to overhear you cussing. Like you were talking directly to the kid.
Okay,
but in your defense, hell is definitely on the mild end of the spectrum.
Thank you.
Also, this kid, he was a fan of you because of YouTube, and he also posts on YouTube and literally lives on YouTube. And I think kids that, are connected to the internet that much get exposed to much, much worse things than a hell yeah.
He's probably heard worse. So
all right, you know what? I'll backtrack a little bit. But
anyways, Jerome, just know that there's been some viewer complaints.
Mr. Painter, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my cursing. I've been trying to watch it.
I'm going to defend Mr. Painter's point of view because I think cursing is one of those things where doing it has the potential to limit your audience, but not doing it doesn't really have the potential to, like, I don't think people are...
It's all downside, basically.
Yeah,
there's no upside to it.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's the end of the world either, but,
Can I offer a counter argument to that for one moment? You said it's all downside, and there's no upside.
Yes.
What about enthusiasts of hip hop? I would argue that those people never want to listen to a clean version of a song. They always want to listen to the explicit version.
It's not a clean version if there was no curse words to begin with.
You know what? I'm fucking sorry. Okay? I'll watch my mouth going forward. Anyways, let's move on. I have a gripe this week. Would you guys like to hear my gripe?
What's up?
Have you guys ever known, or have you guys ever been the type of person to, when you fill up gas, right? You look at the price and you're like, oh, it's a little expensive today. I'm only going to fill up for $10.
I don't do that.
That's never happened to me.
Never do that. But we all know those types of people, right? They're like, oh, it's a little expensive. I'm only going to fill up for $10 today.
Actually, I do something similar where if I know there's a gas station in the direction where I'm going, but I don't have enough gas to get there, I'll only fill up $10. And then I'll fill up fully when I get there.
It's a ridiculous thing to do, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, maybe you go to the gas station that's 5 miles down the road and gas is 3 cents cheaper. And in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm a king. I'm making out like a thief. I'm saving so much money. But in reality, it's like, okay, you save 3 cents per gallon. That's like 50 cents for the trip. Maybe you're filling up gas twice a month. That's $1 that you're saving for a month. Over the course of a lifetime, you're maybe saving like $500. Insane. $500, not worth it. Just fill up your gas fully. That being said, I did this for the first time in my life yesterday. Literally yesterday, I did this because there's a place nearby. So I was driving to soccer. There's a place nearby called like Echo Lodge or Echo Grove or something along those lines. And I was very much running low. You know, my car shows me exactly how much mileage I have left until my car will just come to a full stop. And I'm talking I had maybe 11 miles to go, right? Soccer field, about 20 miles away. So I pull into this gas station to fill up and fully planning to completely fill up, right? Arlington gas prices right now, about $3.25. I pull in, the cheapest gas, $4.89, a almost $1.75 per gallon difference. And I was like, whoa, you must be out of your mind. We're talking a 15-minute drive from my house to this place. $1.75 per gallon? That's insane. You're nuts. I don't know what's going on with gas right now, but that's my gripe. Why was it so expensive there? Also, secondary gripe, don't be counting your cents on gas.
I have actually seen gas prices do that sort of thing. So there's two types of places where you'll see gas prices go way up, way more than they should. One is in large cities. I think Arlington, Virginia is a pretty large city.
Yep.
It's no Arlington, Texas, as one of our viewers previously pointed out, but you know.
Anyway.
And also in wealthy areas. I think, was that area that you were driving in a wealthy area?
It seemed kind of like a resort hotel type situation.
That's how they get them. They get the tourists.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why their gas prices are so high.
It seemed that way. It seemed like a man-made, like, secluded getaway. Does that make sense? Like to get away from the town, but really it's like only a 15-minute drive.
Sure.
So that's what it seemed like.
DC area.
Yeah.
I've never seen a discrepancy that big, so that's kind of
insane.
But
insane.
If I had noticed it, I probably would have done the same thing. I sometimes do that too, not based on price, but just like if I'm about to run out and I'm just like at a gas station that is of lower quality than I would prefer, I'll just get like a little bit to get me over to the next station that I like. I've had experiences in real estate getting gas out in middle of nowhere places, and it's like actually bad gas, and I can like feel the car like not accepting the gas. So I like to go to gas stations that have better reputations.
Interesting. No, it was the first time in my life that I've ever done that. I felt weird about it, but what are you gonna do? You know. Well, before we move into first period, any other gripes you guys got?
Just get an EV, bro.
No, you know this. I put a deposit down on a non-EV car already.
No gripes for me, man. I think I'm good. I think I'm just chilling. I'm glad you guys came to the wedding reception. I appreciate it. I know it was a long trek for everybody.
It was incredible.
Jerome, I think you getting home was kind of difficult.
It was. But, you know, blame that on the hurricane. So
I think there were people
probably
faring worse
blame a lot of things
over the weekend than Jerome, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to have the festivities behind me now. They were fun. But yeah, just looking forward to focusing on the future of this pod.
Fully agree.
Pod grind.
Well, okay. Moving right into first period with yours truly, Professor Jerome. I got a couple things I want to talk about this week. The first thing, why is insurance so confusing? I'm talking specifically medical insurance here. So are you guys familiar with Mark Cuban?
Yes.
Love.
I know him from his Dallas Mavericks.
Do we have, well, he
days.
just sold the Mavericks.
Oh, awkward.
He did. But do we hate him, love him? How do we feel?
I lean slightly positive on him. I think he's a net positive.
Okay.
He's entertaining on television, so I'm slightly positive. Although he is a billionaire, that's
yeah, I fully agree. I'm also slightly positive on Mark Cuban. I think he's a good guy, or not a good guy. He's a very intelligent guy, and I think he gives good advice for potential entrepreneurs. And I like his general demeanor and presence on podcasts and on TV and things. But so anyway, recently I watched a podcast with Mark Cuban where he was talking about his new-ish company, costplusdrugs.com. Are you guys familiar?
Oh my God, yes, I am. I love costplusdrugs.com.
Have you used their services?
No, I haven't, but I just love the idea of it.
Okay.
I do too, and that's part of the reason why I'm positive on him, because it seems like both it's twofold. It's like a good business idea because you're disrupting a major industry, and it's also like helping people. So
completely disrupting the pharmaceutical industry. The idea here is no one understands how insurance and pharmaceuticals works, right? Like no one understands how much things actually cost. And there's all this talk about like insurance companies are marking up prices, but then getting rebates, and like what are the actual prices? They don't pay what the drug manufacturers are actually charging. And no one knows. No one knows what's going on. So what Mark Cuban did was he quite literally published the price sheet for every single drug that they offer on costplusdrugs.com. And the entire business model is they look at how much the manufacturing costs, say it's $30 or whatever. They add a standard 15% markup. Then they add some sort of flat rate for the pharmacy labor, for the pharmacy techs and stuff that are, actually like, I guess, siphoning out the drugs and stuff. And then they add some sort of shipping cost, right? And so they can, and they show you exactly how much everything costs. So they can very simply put a very cheap price on drugs, right? For comparison.
And just to clarify, these are all drugs that are out of patent, right?
I
think that's the idea, is that all of these drugs are like patent free, like generics.
Correct. They're all generics, but I assume most generics, if not all generics, work the exact same as the brand name versions. No.
Well, what I'm saying is like they're drugs that like anyone could make because the patent is expired.
Right. Like it's easy for him to manufacture because there's no R&D involved.
Yeah, and there's no need for a markup because it's a generic.
Correct. And so, and apparently they don't spend a lot on labor either, because even though everything's manufactured here in the US, they have automated a lot of things. We can talk about Mark Cuban for days and days. Another thing he was talking about was how, Donald Trump wants to bring businesses back to the US, manufacturing back to the US, and it's just not realistic because the everyday consumer, truthfully, in the same way that they don't care about buying organic chicken, they don't really care if something's manufactured in the US. They just want to buy whatever's the cheapest, especially right now. So his point being, they've brought manufacturing to the US, but the only way they were able to do that was they automated most of the factory. So they don't actually have a lot of laborers in the factory.
So they didn't give those jobs to foreigners, but they gave them to AI and robots.
Correct. And he was like, that's the only way that American manufacturing is going to be able to compete with cheap offshore manufacturing. And still keep the product price low. And I think it completely makes sense. But anyway, here's some comparisons, right? There's medicine called Gleevec. It's a leukemia medicine. Familiar?
That's actually familiar to me because there's an episode of Law and Order from 2000 where that was a major plot point of the episode. Yes, it was Gleevec. It's for leukemia.
Interesting. Okay.
That's crazy. And the idea was that like the insurance companies were way overcharging for it.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the retail price of Gleevec, and I want you to guess the costplusdrugs.com price. Okay. The retail price is $2,502. What is the costplusdrugs.com price?
I'm going to go $450.
Good guess.
I'm going to go $105.
Good guess. The correct answer is $13.40.
Wow. That's insane.
Insane. I got two more for you. Prozac, depression medicine. The retail price, $23. Guess the costplusdrugs.com price.
What was the first one? What was the retail price?
$23. So little cheaper.
What are we talking? Like, are we going $5?
Good guess.
There's demand there. Everyone loves their antidepressants. So I'm going to go $6.80. $6.80.
Whoa, Jackson's so close. $6.20. You guys were right around the money on that one. But even that is like, you're talking 25%, a quarter of what retail is charging, right? I've got one more for you. I think I'm pronouncing this correctly. Zytiga. It's a hormone-based chemotherapy medicine. The retail price, $1,093. What is the costplusdrugs.com price? $1,093.
They're giving it to you for $12.98.
Good guess. Good guess.
I'm gonna go $18.99.
Good guess. $26.90. But still, almost an 80% markup. Obviously the Gleevec thing. Gleevec, is that right, Jackson?
Sure.
It's
one of those two.
Insane. You're talking what, like a 90% markup, if not more. And so what Mark Cuban was saying was they have completely disrupted the pharmaceutical industry by publishing all of their price sheets, and he's about to do the same with insurance. And so specifically this is exactly what he was talking about. So a insurance company, for example, will tell you that a drug costs $200, right? They will, quote unquote, pay the drug manufacturer $200 for that medicine, but then they will demand, or there's an agreement that they will get a $150 rebate. The manufacturer will send them a rebate for $150. So the insurance company is only paying $50, but they can advertise that the drug costs $200. So now you're kind of in this self-fulfilling prophecy, catch-22 situation, right? You as a consumer, you without insurance have to pay $200, so you have to pay insurance, right? But the insurance company's able to get it for $50? That's insane. And so I truly, I don't know how this is real and how it's allowed and how no one has come in to disrupt this market yet. But Mark Cuban says that he's about to mess up the insurance game, and in the exact same way that they did costplusdrugs.com, he's just going to publish every single exact price, and it is what it is.
You know what this reminds me of actually is something from 10 plus years ago, is Google Fiber. This is actually one of the reasons why Google Fiber, if you remember that, was created. I don't even think it's really a thing anymore, but Google had the mission of, we can do high-speed fiber internet, and so can these other telecommunications companies, but they're not, because they have no, market-based incentive to do it, because people will pay for slower speed internet. So they did it in a handful of target market cities, brought like gigabyte internet and fiber internet to those cities, and then right away other companies started off building fiber and offering high-speed internet in those cities too. Yeah. And they just did it as a way to demonstrate that this can be done. It's just that these telecommunications companies are doing the same,
right?
Or they're denying it,
right? We're all getting scammed, and I want to share my screen here for a second and show you guys a particular procedure that someone went through, right? So, this is for an EV cerebral angioembolization. What does that mean? Brain surgery, right? You're going in and embolizing.
Is that what it means? Are you sure about that?
I think so. Cerebral?
Yeah. Okay. Surgery.
This is already insane.
But if you look at the hospital fees, right? The hospital fees are damn near $2 million, and you pay as your copay $400, right? Which is crazy.
Copay.
I fully agree. If the procedure costs $2 million, you pay $400. You start going through the itemized list here, right? Intensive care, general classification. Don't know what that means, but it costs $222,000. Medical surgeries and supplies, $313,000. Laboratory, $155,000. Radiology, $300,000. And it goes on and on. Operating room services, $225,000. You're telling me just being in an operating room costs as much as a Lamborghini? That's crazy, right? But here's the problem with this. It's the same thing we're talking about. The insurance companies are not paying this amount, right? They just call the hospital up and they're like, we think we owe you maybe like $150,000. And then that's like all they pay. But you as the patient, you see this bill and you're like, oh my God, thank God I have insurance. Thank God I have insurance. So, because there's no way I could afford this without insurance. But it's like, what's going on in the back office here? I think insurance companies call the hospitals and they're like, we're not going to pay you for this. We're going to pay you what we think is the right rate. And in retaliation, the hospitals are like, well, okay, we're going to keep increasing the prices of these things because we're not getting what we are owed. And now we're in a situation where a brain surgery costs $2 million.
Yeah, I would go on a limb saying this is my least favorite part of our society, probably, or definitely one of them. Just, I watched a clip of Bernie Sanders recently, and I know he's kind of like, I don't know, he's kind of fallen off the face of the earth a little bit, but he was talking about just how if you go to any other developed country, so not emerging market countries, but a developed country, and you get in a major car accident, like you're going to get the care that you need and you're not going to pay a dime.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And I just don't understand why we can't move toward that. And knowing the amount of money I pay toward taxes and that not being something that is handled for me just feels very incorrect. I don't know. It just,
I'm with you.
You know, I know that like taxes, you know, we need taxes and stuff, but like those I guess they're called like safety nets. I don't feel like we have good safety nets in the US, but we still pay a lot toward taxes, but we don't get any of the safety nets that are enjoyed in other developed countries.
I agree with you specifically for the middle class, right? Like medical insurance or the ability to, or access to healthcare should be something that everybody has. And that should be like a no-brainer and should be easy. But I don't know. I think there's lots of other problems. And listen, I'm not in politics. I'm not in government. I'm sure there are lots of problems that need more or just as much attention. But listen, if Mark Cuban could come in and completely disrupt this industry and get all these scammers out of here, I'm for it.
And honestly, I'm kind of sad that I don't need more drugs to buy because I kind of want to like use it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like think about if you needed one of these drugs routinely in your life, and then all of a sudden you could just actually pay for it. You know, like
yes,
and you don't have to rely on the. You know, it's like you're kind of like you're at the whim of the insurance companies.
Yeah.
Like, what if they decide? Oh, you don't actually need this care anymore, or whatever, and they're not going to cover it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's almost like I don't know. It's a scary thing.
Listen, Mark Cuban, if you're watching this, come on the pod. We'd love to have you. You know, yeah, that's it. Come on the pod, Mark. Anyway, Jackson, any final thoughts before I move on?
No, it's good to hear though. I would honestly consider getting that insurance.
I would too. One last point on that. One thing that he mentioned on the podcast I was listening to was that the interesting thing about the US is medical insurance specifically is the only type of insurance that is employer sponsored, meaning your employer typically is the one that's negotiating with the insurance companies and setting your, copay rates and all this stuff. Whereas we don't do that for car insurance. We don't do that for homeowners insurance. We don't do that for life insurance. So is that part of why this whole system is like so confusing and convoluted? I don't know, but maybe. All right. Anyway, moving right along. The International Longshoremen's Association. I hope I'm saying that right. Am I saying that correctly? The Longshoremen?
Are you sure it's not Longshoremen?
Is it Longshoremen? That's my question.
Surely it is.
Why are they long?
Well, let's call her. It's just longshore. That's just like what.
What is longshore?
That just means like a sea-bearing person or a sea-bound person. A longshoreman.
It sounds like a landing.
Let's get our fact checker on this. Anyways,
in like the Game of Thrones universe.
It's Longshoremen.
My name is Jerome, son of Longshore. I don't know.
It is Longshoremen.
Longshoremen? Okay.
Google.
That would make sense because these are dock workers. Why would they be longshoremen? That makes sense. Anyway, the International Longshoremen's Association. Recently, dock workers all across the U.S. just went on strike for two specific reasons. The main issues they're striking for is the future of automation and robotics in dock work. And two, wages, right? I don't know if you guys have seen these videos recently coming out of China where a lot of their dock work is being done fully remote, all robotic, but with people that are like controlling these robots and controlling drones from, an office somewhere, and that's how the work is getting done. So that's one of the things that the dock workers here are fighting for. They want to make sure that robotics has no place in dock work. They will continue to be able to labor and earn money, right? So they went on strike on 10/1, October 1st, when their 6-year contract, I think last negotiated in 2018, expired. And here's why strikes are bad for America, in case you didn't know. One, dock work, very critical to the supply chain. Amazon was projecting that a package, like their 1 to 2 day prime delivery thing, was going to be delayed 3 to 4 weeks because of this strike, is what they were projecting. Luckily for us, the strike only lasted 3 days, and so there were no major disruptions. The economy's still fine, but if the strike had gone on for like weeks and weeks and weeks, right? You're talking industries that are completely disrupted from this. Huge supply chain issue, and could have toppled the U.S. economy, right? Let's talk about what they were actually asking for and some of the outcomes. So the numbers are just ridiculous, so it makes me laugh a little bit. The union, the employees union, was asking for a 77% wage increase over the next 6 years, which, wow, that is insane. I wish I could get a 77% raise. The employers representation, which I believe is called the United States Maritime Alliance, the USMX, they offered a 50% raise as a counter negotiation. They said no. Strike continues. Ultimately, they've agreed to a 62% raise over the next 6 years. Right. So I did the math. Currently, a regular dockman, the wage is between $20 an hour and $39 an hour. Comes out to between $42,000 a year and $81,000 a year. I mean, on the low end, in my opinion, a little low. On the high end, seems, I'm not going to say
average.
Reasonable or not, but yeah, like what I would have expected. $81,000, like for like a blue collar worker, probably like about what I would have expected. I will say I work in the construction services industries. Seems like that falls specifically like right in the range of what we would pay, unless you're like a foreman of some sort, in which case oftentimes you're hitting low 6 figures, right?
Yeah. But these are just longshoremen, so.
But right, these are longshoremen. So the implied new range with the 62% increase between $32.50 an hour and $63 an hour. So their new wage is between $67,000 a year to $131,000 a year. This is 6 years in the future, right? This is in 2030 by now. How do we feel?
Well, I'll just go ahead and start off by saying that we talk a lot on this podcast about wages, and we look at sort of wage trends, and we see across the country, we usually just look at the US, wages for a long time have been pretty stagnant, and they don't really increase at the same rate as inflation.
Mm-hmm.
I think whenever you can, whatever means you can use to sort of drive actual wage growth that, is going to match, it's probably going to exceed inflation, but honestly not by like a ton or anything. But getting actual realized wage growth is good. And so I think that just speaks to the power of large unions. They have a lot of sway over bosses, especially if they're in critical industries. Yep. I believe this isn't fact checked, but I think that if I remember correctly, I think the USMX, which is the
employer representation.
That's the employer representation, yep. Was expecting that the US government would try to disrupt the strike. And I think the government said no.
Yeah, Joe Biden was actually very supportive, and he said congratulations on the negotiations.
Yeah, and I think pretty soon after that, a deal was struck. And so
Yep.
I think the fact that a deal was struck so quickly, in fact, I was ready to talk about this on the podcast and be like, oh, this is terrible. The economy's in trouble now. We need to hoard our stuff. We need to hoard toilet paper or whatever. But
which hilariously is one of the things that is produced in the U.S. and has nothing to do with the dock work. But anyway.
But no, that didn't happen. A deal got struck quite quickly, like within a couple days.
3 days.
So
no, I'm fully with you. I think there's a lot of people that are mad about this, and they think like a 62% wage increase over 6 years is ridiculous. I don't know. I don't think so. Maddox?
I don't think it's ridiculous, and I think that it's important, for employees to have leverage to get paid what they deserve to be paid. I will say though, was this not about? This wasn't really about wages at first, wasn't it? About being replaced?
Well, two sides of the same coin, I guess.
Well, I guess I will say I have kind of a hot take on that component.
Go for
of
it. We love it. We love hot takes.
I don't know. I've never been a proponent of the notion of trying to stop innovation for the sake of keeping people in certain types of jobs, because I generally think that technological improvement makes our quality of life better. And I know the one that I always think of is the trucking industry, and there's been
self-driving
for a while, like self-driving replacing truckers, which funnily enough we've been talking about for years and has not really happened yet. But my thought is like that, while that is a lot of people's livelihood, it's traditionally not known to be a very like healthy job. There's a lot of long days and sitting in the same position for a long time, and it's like if we could automate that and free those people up to go do something better or more productive, that seems like a positive thing to me. And so I've never really been a big fan of this notion of not trying to not progress things for the sake because those are people's jobs. I think that we could create programs like that are for displaced workers, kind of like unemployment. But I've always thought it would be cool if paired with unemployment, there was like an opportunity to like learn a new skill or like go back to school or like something along those lines where you could, you're not just getting kicked to the curb, and you're not just like taking unemployment while you find your next thing, but like you're given like an opportunity to gain new skills or educate yourself more. And it's like tied in with the unemployment. And then, so people have like a path, people that have done the same thing, and that's like kind of the only skill set they've acquired in their life. They're not just out of luck. They have a path to reinvent themselves.
I'm totally with you. Kind of like I started this by saying in China, they have essentially drone workers now, drone controllers that are operating all the docks, like similar to that. Like if you get displaced, like you get to learn how to be one of the operators, right?
Yeah. And that's it's still the same. You're still in the same industry.
Yeah.
And you're just learning how to do it the more, the
advanced way, the new, or evolved. Yeah, exactly.
But I thought the irony with this strike about being replaced and they quit working. If they quit working long enough, it might have just opened up the door for them to be
automation.
Like, all right, we're just going to sink all the money into this now because we're not getting anything done.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
That's what fast food companies they would always say. Oh, if our fast food workers go on strike, we're just going to replace you with electronic ordering stations or whatever.
Yeah.
From my experience, there have been there was a period of time where there were like not very many people working in fast food, or there was a lot of strikes. Where are the automated ordering stations? It didn't really happen.
There are kiosks now, but it's like you still have the cashiers.
They're pretty, but I think they're pretty rare. I think it's more common for you to have like a person-based server. So I think that those sorts of statements made by the companies are usually bluffs from my experience.
Yeah.
As a negotiating tactic. But yeah.
Listen, my major takeaway from all this is I think I'm becoming a union guy. I think we all should become union people because you're talking about a 10% raise annually guaranteed, right? And it's like most people don't get that in their corporate jobs. Like most people are getting like 1, 2, 3% raises every year to like keep up with inflation. This is a contractually obligated guarantee, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to expand unions. Is that a crazy hot take? I think unions need to be in every single industry. They need to be in white collar work. Where are the white collar unions other than the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, the one that represents actors? Other than that one, where are the white collar unions?
Yeah, I'm with you. And also to all the viewers out there who, if your first question is, why do longshoremen deserve a 62% raise? I think you're asking the wrong question. The question you should be asking is, why am I not getting a 62%
Exactly.
raise?
Exactly. Nail on head, coffin, whatever you want to say. You hit it. Okay. I got one more story. This is a very light, very chill one. Very quick, too. Did you guys know that in 2025, our favorite, I don't know why I said our favorite. I don't actually think any of us think that this is our favorite, but Mary Jane, a viewer of the podcast, just kidding. Marijuana businesses in California will be able to serve food and have live music, essentially like a marijuana bar. What are your thoughts? I feel like this is a great idea. Why are we not doing this already?
Well, why wasn't this allowed to begin with? I didn't know that this wasn't allowed. And I'm thinking about it. I personally, I don't live anywhere where it's legalized, but there are a lot of not real shops,
Yeah,
like hemp or CBD type,
yeah,
and I feel like every time I see one of those, it's pretty empty. And I've always thought that for people that prefer, I feel like there's people that prefer smoking to drinking, but there's a lot of people like that. And I've always thought that the similar type of environment as a bar for smoking seems like a no-brainer. But is this why that doesn't exist? Because you haven't been able to serve food in them?
I think so. I live in Arlington, Virginia, where in the state of Virginia, marijuana is decriminalized, meaning you can possess it with no consequences up to a certain amount. But you can't purchase it there in Virginia. However, in DC, you can. You can purchase it, you can own it, and all that stuff. So oftentimes people will go into DC, they will buy whatever they want, and then they'll drive it back to Virginia, and it's not a big deal. Like, people do that all the time. I think it's because most of these businesses only sell marijuana, but you can't, like, just be inside and smoke it. You know what I mean? I think this is going to be a quote-unquote, like, breakthrough of it is going to be an area that you can smoke and enjoy and also eat food and also have live music, like really like a bar. And I don't think those exist yet. And I don't know if it's a law thing or what.
I'm here for it. I'm not a big smoker. But honestly, this kind of makes me like, I feel like I would maybe go out with people and like
try it out,
do this type of thing, occasionally. But
yeah,
I think it's a fun thing.
I think it has great commercial prospects. I think if you're looking to, start a business in California, I think you ought to jump on this.
I agree. All the longshoremen,
I think it's gonna do well.
All the longshoremen that are, losing your jobs to robots, go work at a cannabis bar. Anyway,
yikes.
This podcast is sponsored by And Collar. And Collar is an affordable men's clothing company where products are sustainably made with the equivalent of 15 recycled plastic water bottles. Their shirts have 4-way stretch, are machine washable, liquid repellent, and wrinkle and stain resistant. You can go to andcollar.com right now and get 15% off using code 9. Just so everyone knows, the code has changed. It is code 9 for 15% off. Thanks to And Collar. This podcast is sponsored by StockPick. Most investment information is delivered through dense, convoluted websites. StockPick is the only investor-focused mobile app that serves world-class news and insights through short, engaging videos similar to TikTok or YouTube Shorts. Every week, you'll get 15 or more stock tips from Wall Street pros. Plus, the StockPick team shares their daily buy-sell recommendations from the world's top brokerages. On top of that, StockPick offers great value for money compared to alternatives like Seeking Alpha or The Motley Fool. The price point is far more accessible. It works out to just be $1.50 a week versus up to $115 per week on some of those other platforms. Try StockPick today on a 14-day free trial. Check out the link in the description below. Make sure you use our link so we get credit for it. Now back to the episode. If you guys want to join the conversation with us as things are happening, come and join the Discord. The link is in the description below. It's completely free. You'll get advice, thoughts, commentary on current events in the classroom. And it's just fun. We're fun to interact with, so come and join. Moving on into second period. Maddox, Professor Maddox, what do you got for us this evening?
Well, I've got my a couple recurring segments, one old and one new. So we'll start with the old one first.
Well, it's not very recurring if it's the first time you're doing it, isn't it?
It's going to be
the first
recurring.
annual.
Yeah.
I'm trying out recurring segments and see if they catch, and then, but the intention is that they're recurring, even if they haven't.
Okay, I'm with you.
They haven't been recurring.
I'm with you.
And to be fair, the ones that I have done before, I don't think I've done every episode anyway. So
facts.
They're sporadically recurring. So business ideas, the good and the bad. Is that the name we're going with?
Sure.
I still haven't settled on a name.
This is my favorite segment.
Okay. So it's a subscription-based model to both a mechanic / detailing business. Okay. So you pay a monthly fee, let's call it $100 a month. I don't know if that's high or low for this thing, but it's a subscription. And basically just whenever you want, you can take your car to this shop and get whatever like routine maintenance done that you need to get. We're not talking like a full mechanic, but just, your oil changes, your brake pad changes, whatever other fluids you need to change routinely. They'll take care of like the bare minimum, like routine stuff, the kind of stuff that you have to always do being a car owner, right? So like if you have a major mechanical failure, my thought is you would go to like a specialty mechanic for this. But they also will detail your car too. But here's the thing. When you drop it off, you get a rental car. So you just drop it off whenever you want. You grab a rental car and it's all automated. Like you just scan your phone or whatever and you don't have to interact. And then they'll shoot you a text or something when your car's ready and you just come back and get it.
So you don't have to sit there for 3 hours or whatever.
Yeah. That's like the big part. That's the problem that I'm trying to solve here, because I hate having to either sit there or, it's going to be there for a few days and you don't have a car or so this is just like you drop it off, you get another car, and whenever it's ready, like you go back and you get it. What are your thoughts?
This is interesting. I like the detailing piece. I think your big competitors are going to be those automated car washes that already offer this as like a subscription. You pay $29.99 a month or whatever, and you get unlimited car washes. I like the rental car idea, but realistically, I'm like, what am I going to get done in those 2 hours that my car's at the shop? Nothing. But also, I don't want to be stuck at the shop for 2 hours.
Well, so the part of what inspired this idea was when we were in Canada, there was a little like smart car driving around that had it had a tire shop's like logo on it, and it was like, I don't know, it had like a catchy phrase like "Follow me back to what so and so tires" or whatever, or no, it said "My other car is at so and so tire shop," and I was like, that's clever, And so while you're getting your tires changed, like you get this rental car or whatever. My thought is it doesn't just have to be for a couple hours. Like you could keep it for a day, or like you return it the next day or something. That's the point. It's like supposed to be flexible.
Right.
So it doesn't like take up a big portion of your day to get these things done. You can just go kind of at your convenience, and they will kind of work on your car at their convenience. And then did you have another point?
I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea. I think the numbers need to make sense. $100 feels high, but you get a rental car. I don't know. The numbers need to make sense, but I don't hate the idea. I think this is a good idea.
Oh, my other point was going to be, while you're right that automated car washes obviously do this subscription thing, I think there's potentially growing demand for like hand washing vehicles. I don't know. The automated car washes for car enthusiasts, they can. There's some higher risk of damage to be done.
Yeah.
So especially people with like newer cars or whatever, I think there is some more demand to have like a more professional touch on the wash. But Jackson, what you got any thoughts?
So it's funny that you mentioned this, because I actually took my car to the shop today to get it.
Oh, wow.
But I think my bill was like $120. So I think we're going to have to work on that $100 per month price point. But what I wanted to say is that it seems like everything's becoming a monthly or annual subscription these days. And I don't know, are we ever going to see fatigue from like too much of that? I know that wasn't really like your main idea. Your main idea was just to get rental cars into the hands of people while their cars in the shop. Actually, while I took my car to the shop, it only took like 45 minutes, I think. But I brought a book and I was just reading, so that was fun.
To be fair, I guess it doesn't have to be a subscription model. My thought about the subscription model was it could be kind of like the car wash, like you could just come in whenever.
No, but I like the subscription model because I think most consumers forget about it and don't use it monthly.
Yeah, there is a reason why there's a lot of subscription models, is because they make a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that's from the business aspect, that's why you do it, because not everyone takes advantage of the full services that are being offered, and so you benefit from that. But I actually, on your point about if there's going to be fatigue from it, I kind of feel like there probably is already,
Mm-hmm.
If you just start thinking about all the things that you pay for monthly, it's funny how it works, because it's just like, oh yeah, that's just $20 a month, and oh yeah, that's another. But I bet you if you go in and add it up, it's like you never free yourself from like the need of cash flow. I feel like it used to be people were like, okay, I can just buy this thing and I'll never have to pay for it again. But I just don't feel like you can do that anymore. I feel like you have like almost everything we use, you're going to have to pay for it again at some point, whether it's like a subscription based or just, I mean, like think about like phones, like there's no prospect that, oh, I can just buy this phone outright and I'll never need another one again. Like you're always going to be paying for a new phone.
Yep.
Whether you're paying it off or, or you're buying a new one, like it just doesn't work like that anymore. It's like, so basically everything has just become subscription based or planned obsolescence. Like you're going to have to upgrade it at some point.
Yeah.
And I guarantee, I feel like there is fatigue from that.
What's your next business idea? You got another one?
Well, Jackson said something and before the podcast, so I've only had an hour to think on this, and I'm realizing that it's not well thought out yet, but I thought it was kind of cool because he said like we could make a short out of that, and he was like, I would bet that one would flop. And then I was like, what if we could make like a prediction market around the performance of social media posts?
Impossible. I'm going to shut this one down.
What?
Impossible. How? I mean, I feel like people try to do that. Like, I've used a lot of these like AI shorts makers that give you like a virality score and all this stuff, right? They never work, dude. They like are all looking for the same, like, I don't know. I feel like people's interests are constantly changing. And people have tried to copy like the Mr. Beast style video, and it doesn't work for them because it's like, you're not Mr. Beast.
No, you missed what I was talking about.
Oh, go ahead.
So like a prediction market. So like, will Mr. Beast's next video get over or under 100 million views?
Oh, you're talking about people are like betting on it.
Yeah.
Ooh, I flipped my script. I like this. I like this idea. Is this video going to flop? Yes or no? That's what we're betting on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I like this.
Somehow I realize like it doesn't necessarily make sense because it's like, what if Mr. Beast stops posting and then all this money has been bet on it? And it's like, I don't know. There would definitely need to be some logistics worked out. But I feel like it could be fun because if I've learned anything from us posting on social media is that the algorithms make no sense.
Yeah,
like
they don't.
It's just seems like chaos.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect, kind of like financial markets. It's a perfect opportunity to have people's money thrown at things.
Yeah.
If you're really feeling dangerous, you would bet on like micro or small level posters like us. Just
I agree.
Very hard to predict how it's going to do, and there's a lot of variance.
Over under 1,000 views or over under 2,000 views.
We would be like the options contracts of
exactly.
the social media betting space.
I like this idea. That's a good idea.
Cool. All right. I feel like those were better received than some of my previous ones.
Yeah, you had 2 good ones today. All right, what's your new segment?
All right, I'm calling it investment hacks.
Okay.
Investment hacks. So my plan on this one is I'm just going to talk about random little, not random, like they're kind of profound concepts about investing that I have found helpful in my life, and maybe other people will find them helpful or just interesting. So yeah, let's start with, you go to a traditional financial advisor, right? Just your, I don't want to name any names, but you need
Charles Schwab.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Just your standard run of the mill, very vanilla financial advisor. The portfolio that you're going to get from that advisor is pretty much going to be at the best you're going to get is the performance of a stock market fund. And typically the only other tool that they would use is some type of bond market fund. So let's say that if you invest with a traditional financial advisor, your return is going to be somewhere between whatever the stock market return is and whatever the return of the aggregate bond market is. Obviously, people are going to put their own little they sprinkle in some of their own little flair to the portfolio, but generally by and large, that is the portfolio that you're going to get. And that's the expectation of the returns that you should have. It's going to be somewhere between either on the high end, what stocks return, or on the low end, what bonds return. And then they're going to charge you a fee for that. So that's your expectation of what you would get. So during COVID, there was a law change in the ETF laws that allowed for derivatives to be used in exchange traded funds, which was kind of a big deal. Actually, it's a very big deal. But so previously, exchange traded funds didn't really use derivatives. I don't know. I feel like there were some that were using some, but maybe it was really, really complicated or something. But anyway, during COVID, there was a law change. Now you can use derivatives and ETFs. So there's all these new products coming out that are basically building more sophisticated, eccentric strategies using derivatives. So I want to talk about one product that I think basically should just replace the entire whatever traditional financial advisors are doing in that portfolio. This should just completely replace it because it is just a far superior product. So let's take that stock fund that I was talking about. That's basically what, most people's portfolios are built on, just a stock market fund. And then the bonds are added in for diversification purposes, right? They're supposed to help offset the losses when stocks are doing poorly. So you can take that stock market fund, and then instead of if you want to reduce your risk from this stock fund and diversify it into bonds, typically you have to sell the stocks and buy the bonds, right? So you're typically reducing the expected return on your portfolio, or you're just taking less exposure to stocks. So if that's mostly what the benchmark is, you're deviating from the benchmark, which feels bad when the benchmark's doing really, really good, like it is now. So if you take that stock fund and you invest 100% of your money into it, and then instead of selling the stocks to buy the bonds, what you can do is use that stock, all that money you have in that stock fund as collateral, and purchase you can get that same bond exposure through futures contracts. So what you get when you do that is you get 100% of the stock returns because you're 100% invested in stocks, but then you're using that as collateral to buy the futures contracts too. So on top of that, you get the returns of the bonds in addition to the returns of the stocks. So you get the diversification of both. You get the bonds helping offset the losses in the stocks, but you're not having to sell any of the stocks to buy the bonds because you're using derivatives to get the exposure to the bonds. So you get the 100% of the returns of the stocks. You get 100% of the returns of the bonds, less the embedded financing cost of futures, using futures, which is there, but it's still, you're like going to be better off than not having the bond, the additional returns of the bonds. So yeah, it sounds complicated. It is complicated to implement. Like if you were doing that yourself, because the whole implementation of the futures contracts and everything, like the average person can't do that. But now there are ETFs that just do this for you, and you get this exposure, and you can just buy this ETF. And this one particular I'm talking about is called it's called return stacked stocks and bonds. And these guys have come out with a few different return stacked products. That's what they're calling this concept, where you take one asset and then you're fully invested in that one asset, and then you stack an additional return stream on top of it using derivatives. So yeah, this one's RSSB, and it's so superior to any portfolio that a traditional advisor is going to give you. You're getting better returns because you're literally, if the benchmark is the stock market, you're getting the stocks, and then whatever the stocks return, you're getting the bonds on top of that too. You're getting the diversification of the bonds to help offset the losses in the stocks. And then you're getting tax efficiency because since it's all in an ETF, basically you're just getting taxed when you sell, based on the gains when you sell that ETF. But if you buy bonds like directly or in a bond fund, that's distributed, that's like interest, and that's taxed at higher rates than capital gains. So like this whole product creates more tax efficiency around the bonds as well. So yeah, that's why I call this investment hacks, because this is like, I think that when people think about like outperforming the stock market or getting excess returns relative to stocks, it's like people think about having to, outpredict or, be Warren Buffett picking the best stocks. Like that's what people think you have to do to outperform the stock market. And there are literally so many ways like this that are just being more creative about how you construct a portfolio that can give you higher expected returns than whatever your benchmark is. In this one, it's the stock market. So yeah, I don't know. This is how I think about things. Like I don't focus on out predicting. I think about just out constructing. Like how do you build better portfolios? How do you get better expected returns? How do you get less risk? And there's a lot of there are a lot of ways. There are a lot of products that are coming out now that will give you that if you just choose a better product over an antiquated product. There's ways that you can yourself kind of construct strategies like this that are less a little bit easier to implement than this is, but can still, get you better expected returns.
I think
But yeah.
I think the explanation in the background of how everything actually works is quite complicated, and truthfully went way over my head, and I think way over Jackson's head too. However, if the hack is don't work with Charles Schwab anymore and just buy RSSB, I'm here for it. That's all I needed to know. If I can get better returns with RSSB than I can with Charles Schwab, I'm here for it. Hey, say no more, buddy. I don't need to know how the derivatives work on top of the stocks. I love it. Give me the returns of the stock and of the derivatives. Anyway, did I get that about right?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that's interesting though that you say that, because I would consider you like more financially savvy, investment savvy than the average person. But maybe I'm just bad at explaining. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's like derivatives are complicated.
Yeah, for sure.
I learned that in calculus.
Facts.
Okay. Well, on that note, thanks, Maddox, for this has been Investment Hacks with Maddox.
A recurring segment for the first time.
Well, I don't know. We got to see how the short does. If the short flops,
True.
and we just cut it.
I don't know how I'm going to pull a short out of that, but I'll try.
I'll do it.
try.
I can work on that one.
Jackson, you got anything this week for the listeners, or should we move right into recess?
No, okay. So, like Maddox, I'm gonna talk about I'm gonna do my recurring segment that I've never done before, and this is the first time I'm doing it. It's personal finance advice, because in my opinion, humble opinion, because I'm very humble, I'm known for my humility, I feel like I give the best personal finance advice of anyone I know. And I often see, like, my friends or my family members, they do these things with their personal finances, like they make purchases, or they...
Oh my God, they buy things?
They make certain purchases that I'm like, I don't know about that one. I don't know if you want to be doing that, because I know a bit about their personal
financial situation.
Yeah, their financial situation.
This is the same guy that will take an 8-hour layover to Denver to go from Atlanta to Arkansas.
Yeah, I did. It saved me like $200.
Okay. Anyway,
how much time did you lose though?
Yeah.
I mean, I had a book I was gonna be reading anyways.
Okay, Jackson, what's your personal finance with Jackson? Okay,
so this actually derives from an interesting episode that happened during our weekend at the wedding reception, at Maddox's wedding reception. So this is after the wedding reception. We all got home. It's probably like...
Jackson, this is what I was referencing earlier during pleasantries.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to talk about it now. Yeah.
Continue.
So yeah. I think it's probably like 1:30 or 2 in the morning. And everyone's getting home from the reception and the bar. And to one of our friends, he starts telling this story about how he was recently in Chicago for business. Like, his company had him go there. And then he flew into the Chicago airport, and then he needed to get downtown to his hotel. So his instinct, and we all know him, like, we know that, like, he does this a lot. His first instinct was just to take an Uber from the airport to downtown. And he was shocked and appalled to find that it cost him $105 to take this Uber from the airport to downtown Chicago. And then when he was telling us this story, I've been to Chicago several times in the last couple of years, and one of our other friends who used to live in Chicago were telling him, well, you could have just taken the train, and that only costs $5. And he was like surprised, or
he was taken aback.
He was taken aback.
I had no idea.
I actually remember this is one of the funniest parts of the story, was that he said, while we were driving, I like looked behind me, and like I saw, oh wait, there's a train track, because the train runs like right along the highway in Chicago. Yeah, like the subway, and I was like, yeah.
So is your personal finance advice to take the train and not take an Uber?
Yeah. So that's my personal. So if you're ever traveling, like, to a larger city, like, if you're ever going on vacation, what you should do is you should just make a plan ahead of time about how you're going to spend money to like get around or stay places. It's like, okay, how am I going to get, how am I going to get from the airport to downtown? You should be thinking about that beforehand, not during it. Also, our friend told me he didn't know that there was a train and like didn't see any signs, which I think is a ridiculous thing to say because like
that's probably
like
a lie. That's probably
the
a lie.
third largest. Chicago's the third largest city in the country, and I just know that he likes to take Ubers a lot. Here's
what I will say, and here's why this is a bad personal finance advice for this specific scenario. Generally speaking, I'm with you. In this specific scenario, he was on a business trip. It doesn't matter if he takes an Uber because the company is going to reimburse him. It's not his money. Our other friend that used to live in Chicago.
This is health insurance company logic.
What do you mean? It's not because okay, in this scenario, right? Our friend took a $105 Uber from the airport to downtown Chicago. Jackson's argument is he's $105 poorer because he could have taken a $5 train instead. My argument is it doesn't matter if he takes a $105 Uber or the $5 train because regardless, his company is going to foot the bill for both. So why not just take the $105 Uber where you're more comfortable? And
yeah, I know that's what the hospitals are saying there too. The insurance company's going to pay for it, so we just got to charge whatever we want.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, not to take the side of companies or anything, but like I think it's more of the principle of the matter. It's like why spend $100 of someone's money? I mean,
to create Uber driver jobs.
Yeah, Jackson. I am the guy that will pay for convenience. Like, this is a bad example because how much time is he saving taking the train versus the Uber? Honestly, probably not that much in this specific scenario. But, like, in your scenario, when you wasted 8 hours of your day for a $200 to get back to Arkansas, I would have absolutely paid for the $200 extra.
Okay, yeah, let me tell that story because you keep bringing it up, and I'll talk about this. So, I live in Little Rock, and I was trying to get to Atlanta. I didn't want to drive there. It was like an 8-hour drive. So I was like, let's fly. I took Southwest, known to be a economically like a cheaper airline, and the cheapest option for me, and it was about $200 cheaper than the other option, was for me to fly from Little Rock to Denver, and then Denver to Atlanta. I don't know why that was the cheaper option; it just was. And everyone else was giving me flack for it because I probably lost. I would say because like there's direct flights to Atlanta. I could have flown on Delta and got a direct flight to Atlanta. But it would have cost me like $200. I don't know what the exact amount was, but let's call it $200 more. But what I did instead is I took that cheaper option and I lost probably 5 hours of my time. But like I said, what was I doing during this time? I was reading. I like reading. So it might have been something I was doing anyways. And then also when I got to the airport, I took a train and a bus to get to our Airbnb when everyone else just took Ubers. And so that's what I'm saying is like, don't be in the mindset that like, okay, by default, I'm going to be taking an Uber. I'm going to stay in this expensive hotel, plan, like do your research. I'm going to take this expensive flight that I think, do your research and don't be, because like, $200, you do that like once a month or something, that starts to add up, and a lot of people are not in the as financially secure positions as we are. And so I think if you do that, it's going to help you out later in life.
Listen, man, I'm not anyone to judge what you did because I drove from Washington D.C. to Chattanooga, Tennessee for Maddox's wedding, and that's literally like a 10-hour drive. So, we all do these things all the time just to save a couple bucks here and there. With that, let's move on into Recess, our findings of the funniest, dumbest memes on the internet that came across our feed this last week across Twitter, Reddit, etc. Jackson, I think you said you had something for Recess this week. You wanna take it away and go first?
Okay, yeah. So we keep bringing up this wedding, and so for the wedding, I flew from Little Rock to Chattanooga, connection in Atlanta. By the way, let me just mention the Atlanta to Chattanooga flight, 23 minutes in the air. That should be illegal. I don't know who came up with that. Wow. But anyways, that's not the point.
That's my favorite kind of flight.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that pathway shouldn't exist. Anyways, I was in the Chattanooga airport, which, by the way, I think is like freshly renovated and it's really nice and state of the art. Because I remember I went like 15 years ago and it was like basically a single room airport kind of deal. But anyways, that's not the point. When I was in the Chattanooga airport, they actually had a little small library or bookstore where they just had a bunch of random books on bookshelves, and you could go in and you could buy a book for like, I think $4 for paperback, $6 for hardcover. Pretty good deal, I gotta say. And also, I think you could just like take a book off the shelf and like read it in the little library/bookstore while you were waiting for your flight, or to check in. Or actually, it was before security, so you could do it while if you got there early or something. But I just wanted to say that I've never seen something like that, and that seems like something that's cool to have in airports, because I think airports are full of overpriced and like not very enjoyable things to do, like bars and restaurants and those massage chairs that cost way too much money. So I like something like this.
I'm with you, especially if they've got a space for you to read and like put the book back down and not have to buy it. I think that's cool. Airport libraries, we're here for them.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Jared would love this. Unfortunately, he's not with us today.
Whoa, that sounded dark. That sounded really dark.
By the way, this is some behind the scenes information, but the reason why Jared couldn't be with us this week is he was at the Baltimore Orioles. They're in the playoffs in baseball, and so he wanted to watch them, which is, I understand. Don't get that opportunity very often. But luckily, that won't be a problem for our next recording session, because they lost and they're out of the playoffs.
Ooh.
Dang.
Sorry,
that's
Jerry.
the only sports thing we're going to be talking about today.
He's probably fuming right now. Wow, that's sad. Anyway, to keep the mood light, recess. I have one thing. Wingstop. You guys familiar? You guys eat at Wingstop ever?
Yeah, we got one in Maryville recently, and
what? Really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I did not know that.
That's our hometown for all the listeners, by the way.
It's by the Little Caesars.
Ugh. Yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. That's where my credit union used to be.
In the Little Caesars?
Inside the Little Caesars, yeah. They take you to the back, and then that's where you can deposit your money to a man named Craig. I don't know. I'm not good at improv, okay? Anyway, Wingstop currently trading at 129 times their earnings. Is that insane? Maddox, tell me what's going on with Wingstop right now. Why are they booming?
I don't know. Why are you throwing that one on me?
Know. You're the finance guy. You're the finance guy. What possible reason does their PE ratio need to be 129 times?
I don't know. I mean, it makes me think that something like GameStop-esque is going on. Like, are people talking about it on Reddit, or is there?
I don't know. I mean, I'll show you the graph right now if you guys want to see it.
Basically, what that's telling you is either the market has extremely high expectations about the growth of this company, which, could either come to fruition or could end really badly, or there's some type of crowd, herd dynamic that's causing it. But that honestly looked like a pretty
steady growth,
steady chart. So,
and I'm just saying, is Wingstop that good? Do we like Wingstop? Because I've been a couple of times in my life. It's fine.
My brother and I went and we were out driving. We drove the Dragon in the evening the other night, and we came back and we were like, let's get some food. And it was past 10 p.m. and there was nothing open around us. Yeah. And Wingstop was open till midnight. So I was like, heck yeah.
There you go.
So I ordered it online and went and picked it up. And there was people in there, a good amount of people, groups, sitting and hanging out. And I was like, oh, I feel like this has become a new Taco Bell, late night, or cookout, a late night place to hang out and eat. And I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's not the best wings I've ever had, but it definitely hits the spot. Yeah, it does the job.
I'm with you. So all that to say, everyone keep your eye out on Wingstop. Maybe invest some money in Wingstop. I also love the fact that their ticker symbol is just WING, wing.
I love a good ticker.
Love it.
We're gonna get the ticker 9 one day when we launch our fund.
That'd be so sick. Okay, I got one more thing for recess. Taylor Swift recently became a billionaire. right? $1.1 billion is her net worth. And if we remember, Kanye West back in the day, huge critic of Taylor Swift. Beyonce should have won Best Album or whatever it was, right? So someone tweets, the Twitter account Taylor Swift Facts tweets, Taylor Swift can... Let me back up for a second. Taylor Swift net worth $1.1 billion. Kanye West net worth $400 million. So, Taylor Swift Facts tweets, Taylor Swift can now buy Kanye West and still have $700 million left for herself. And this is why I love community notes on Twitter, because here's what the community note says. Taylor Swift cannot, quote unquote, buy Kanye West, as this was abolished in 1865 in the United States.
No way.
Oh, community notes is so funny. It's not real. Community notes is not a fact checker, but it's funny sometimes.
So how does that work? Is it? Sorry if I'm naive. I've seen the feature, but I didn't know the workings of it. Does it take what people are commenting and like synthesize it into this is people are trying to correct this, or is it?
So it's meant to be a fact checker, but ultimately it's community run, right? And so the way that it actually ends up working is you or I or anyone can submit a like community notes like claim on a tweet, right? And then it goes to like this separate portal, like a separate like community notes tab, and people in the community can upvote or downvote it. And once it gets like a certain number of upvotes, it'll just be posted on the thing as a note. But it's like ultimately
people are doing it in
we know people on Twitter are trolls.
Yeah. Actually from a concept perspective, I feel like that's actually a pretty good way to try to, I don't know, what is it? Try to like promote accurate information, but also it's like the people doing it it's just the same people that are posting it and commenting on it. It's like,
exactly. So it's like, are you ever going to get the truth? Probably not. But anyway, thank you guys for watching another episode of the 9 Degrees podcast. As always, if you want to interact with us, the professors, and talk about all of the current events in real time, make sure to join the classroom in Discord. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel to watch the video version, youtube.com/Jerome Vaz. We also have Instagram, TikTok, at 9 Degrees Pod on all things socials. Thank you guys for watching the episode, and class is now dismissed.